Welcome to Learning with Linux. In this video, we're going to talk about file management. Specifically, we're going to look at directories. We're going to look at specific files. We're going to talk about how to create them, how to delete them, how to move them. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. First off, we have a terminal window open here. And if you don't recall how to get into a terminal window, I'll give you one of the options here. You can right-click and select Open Terminal. There are others, and we shared those in a previous video. Now we're going to look at where are we at? Where in the file structure are we currently? The best way to do that is to print your working directory. And if you recall, that was a pwd command. And you can see we are at the root level Home Learning with Linux folder. That is where we currently are. And if I list the directory ls, you can see all the folders that are in that Learning with Linux folder. Now, if you recall from our last video, navigation exercise is one that we've been using specifically, and we'll dive into that here as well. If we type cd and change our directory and we go to the navigation exercise folder, and remember when we start typing, we can auto-complete with the tab. And voila, we are now in the navigation exercise folder, and inside that we have another folder called animals. I'm going to look at the tree because that always helps me to see things and find things. I am also going to open up the home folder just to give us a graphical representation that will come in handy periodically here. We'll open that navigation exercise and animals. And you can see the same information, just in a little different view. So we'll slide that over for the moment. All right, let's go ahead and create some new directories. So we will start with our first new command, and that is make directory, mkdir. And let's create one called food. So when we look at our tree, you can see now we also have a new directory, food. And we could delete that by rm directory, remove directory. Let's go ahead and do that for fun. And you can see now it's gone. Let's clear just to make our screen a little bit easier to see. And we'll again type out the tree so we can view it. Let's bring that food folder back in, and the easiest way, if you recall from earlier video, is by the arrow up. And we're going to get to where we see our make directory command. Just hit return or enter. And there it is. We've created that again. Now I'm going to introduce another concept here. It's relative path or absolute path. What we just did was a relative path, and there are additional ways of doing that. And here, let's a relative path takes where you are and follows a path from there to get where you want to be. Absolute path starts at the very highest level at the root directory and then gives the directions, if you will, to get to the folder that you want. So with that, let's go up one level. Remember, cd ... gets us there. And I'm going to clear, and let's look at our printing our working directory. We're now at our home Learning with Linux folder, and in that we have those additional folders. So where we were at, we wanted to create another folder under food, and you can see here in the graphical interface, the food file folder or directory is currently empty. We want to fill it with something. So what we're going to do is a make directory, mkdir, and we're going to do a relative path. So at this point, we know we want to go into the navigation exercise folder. We have to navigate to that one, and then below that is the food directory. So we're going to start typing that, and then we're going to give it the name that we want. And in this case, I don't know, let's take breakfast. Sound good? All right, and when we hit return, you can see, voila, we now have a breakfast folder under the food folder which is inside or under the navigation exercise folder. So if I do ls, I don't see it. Well, of course not. I have to go deeper than that. Let's go ahead. You know what? From here, let's look at, let's go the other path. Let's go with an absolute path. So again, if I do an absolute path, I have to start at the root directory. So I'm going to do an mkdir, and my current working directory is root, home, and learning with Linux. And then the next level under that is the navigation exercise. And then we want it under the food directory. And then we will call it lunch. Now again, when I look, I don't see either of these. Let's take a look over here in our graphical interface, and you can see we not only have a breakfast but also a lunch folder. Now I can get there also through navigating through our structure here. Again, you can see there's my food folder, and if I navigate to it, now I can see my breakfast and lunch. And I can look at it in a tree view if I prefer that. Now, when I'm in this folder, obviously the make directory is very simple. I can just type in what I want, and it shows up. I don't have to have any of that path information, but it is nice to know how to do that, because there are definitely times when you're not in the location that you want to create something or do something, and you need to understand the different ways of creating the path to get to the file or directory that you want. All right, let's hit on another concept, and I'm going to clear the screen for a moment. We're going to go into the touch command. That is a method of creating files. So let's print our working directory. We're currently in that food directory, and we're going to create a few files in there. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's touch Apple. Let's touch egg. And let's touch watermelon. And if I look at them, you can see now not only do I have my breakfast, lunch, and dinner folders or directories, but inside or in the current directory, I have egg, watermelon, and apple. Let's look at the tree view because it's a little bit easier. They're all at the same level, if you will. But touch, if the file doesn't exist, it creates it. Now there's another fun element out of that, and let's look at this for a moment. Let's go up a level in our directory tree. And you can see we're in the navigation exercise. I'm going to clear the screen for a moment, and let's look at what's there. Let's go into the animals. And let's take a look at it. We have the chicken, cow, and dog files, if you will. And there's nothing in any of them. They're just blank files. When you touch a file and you create it that way, it just creates a placeholder. All right, let's go ahead and touch one of these just for fun. And what I want you to look at is down here right now, the cow file. It was created February 19th, and today it is the 20th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch that and see what happens. And if you look, the time and date changed. So when I touch a file, it may not change the contents, but it will change the date that it's modified and the time that it's modified. So another interesting element just to be aware of. All right, let's continue. Now that I have these, let's go up. Let's go back up a level here and navigate back into our food folder. So I have apple, egg, and watermelon, and I don't know that that's quite where I want them. They're in food, but let's see. Egg I would probably have for breakfast. So why don't we move it there? How would I do that? Well, first off, I'm going to clear the screen and come back up to where I can see that information. So if I want to move a file, I can do the move command, mv. So I type move, and I'm in this directory right now, so I can access egg directly, and then I want to move it. I'm going to select where I'm going to move it. So the first part after the mv command is what I want to move, and then it's the next piece is where do I want to move it to. In this case, I want to move it under breakfast and hit enter or return. ls, it's gone. Where did it go? Hopefully under breakfast. And you can see in the graphical interface, it is indeed under the breakfast level or folder. Okay, when might I eat an apple? I don't know. I probably have an apple for lunch. Okay, so I want to move that. What are some different ways I can do that? Well, obviously I'm going to use the move command. But back to what we had talked about before, I can use relative or absolute paths. Either one works. So again, in here what I'm going to do is, well, you know what? Let's do CD and let's go up a level just to make it a little more interesting. So now you can see where I need to move it from. If I'm going to move it, and let's get our graphical component out of the way here for the moment. I have to first get to it, which means the current location for it is food, and it is case sensitive. If I type in food with a small f, it will not know what I'm talking about. So let's take watermelon, or excuse me, apple was what we were working on, wasn't it? I want to take apple, and I'm going to move it to food lunch. And then let's type in the tree again, and you can see that apple is now under lunch. So the same things apply as far as the different paths that we can use. And I would encourage you to play around with those a little bit and get comfortable with them. All right, now what happens if I want to get rid of something? And actually, I'm going to go into the navigation folder. Oh, I am in it currently. That's why it's not letting me go there. All right, so we want to be in the food area, the food folder. And let's clear that for just a minute. We'll bring this over a little. And let's list the contents again so we can see what we're doing. If I want to remove watermelon, I simply type RM and watermelon. Notice that when I put in caps, it doesn't know what I'm talking about. I have to stay consistent. Now when I do that, it's now gone. Now what if I want to get rid of, let's say, lunch? How do I do that? Well, let's try the remove command and see what happens. Remove lunch. Doesn't like that. I can't just type RM and use that command. Well, let's try the RMDIR and see if that works. It doesn't like that either. Why? Because it's not empty. So I have to first empty the directory, then I can delete it. Okay, what's currently in lunch? If I look down here and crack that open, I've got an apple in lunch. So first I have to remove the apple. So I'm going to follow the path to get there. So first I have to go to the lunch folder and then get rid of apple. Now, actually let's do the tree, and you can see that apple is no longer part of lunch. So I can remove that directory. So if I type in RMDIR, lunch, and obviously I could have done the up arrow. That probably would have been more efficient. It is now gone. Let's see, another piece here. What if I wanted to get rid of breakfast and didn't want to have to go in and get rid of egg first? Is there a way of doing that? Well, let's see. If I want to get rid of that breakfast directory, I have another tool in my tool belt, and that is under the rm command. I'm just going to move that over a little bit. I have the recursive option, -R, and it can either be small r or capital R. And if I start typing in breakfast and I hit enter or return, it now did just that. It got rid of both items. And you can see even when I do the tree, it is officially all gone. All right, I hope that was informative. I hope you learned something through that. I would encourage you to start playing around with those commands to get comfortable with them. It does take time and practice. There are no shortcuts there, but keep on learning. And I would encourage you also to sign up for our channel, to subscribe. And with that, keep learning and have a great day.